Hey everyone, welcome to our Masterclass series, More Than a Diabetic, Beat Type 2 Diabetes the Natural Way. Today we have Bonnie Hise. She's going to be talking about how food additives fuel type 2 diabetes and sabotage your health. I'm excited about this topic. Bonnie is a dedicated wellness coach and holistic health expert with over 21 years in the health and wellness field. She specializes in nutrition and natural solutions for people with type 2 diabetes and with other chronic conditions as well. Not only does she hold a degree in complementary and alternative medicine, she has an advanced training in holistic nutrition and herbal medicine, a favorite topic of mine too. Driven by a passion for empowering women to take control of their wellness, Bonnie combines her deep knowledge of food science with practical real life strategies to guide clients toward long term health transformations. And through her work at Wild Free Health, Bonnie has helped countless of individuals unmask the hidden health risks in their health, like harmful food additives, which we'll talk about today, which enabling them to achieve better energy, stable blood sugar, and a balanced, vibrant life. Welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here today because when it comes to diabetes reversal, we focus on talking about bringing real foods back into our life, which is necessary for sure. But the industry can be very misleading and sneaky and make certain health foods look like a health food, right? By adding these additives. So, can you talk about what are food additives? Because some people don't realize it's an additive, and how do common food additives affect blood sugar levels and inflammation? And why are they especially harmful for people who have type 2 diabetes?
So, first and foremost, what additives are
Hmm.
things that the food industry adds to our food to make it look better, taste better, and effectively last longer so that when grocery stores and other mass market conglomerates buy them and put them on their shelves, they're not having to replenish them or replace them every couple of days.
Hmm.
Um, these things are really harmful. They've gotten cheaper in production over the years, which is where that harm comes into play. There are ways that you can actually preserve whole foods without going the chemical route. However, that is not what's happened. It is much cheaper to use those chemical additives and the sprays, even with all of the scientific testing that goes into the production of that, than it is to teach people how to actually preserve their food.
Hmm.
And a lot of times what happens, like when you walk into a grocery store, you see these big, bright red oranges, geez, big, bright red apples. And
Yeah.
the oranges are nice and bright and shiny, right? Vibrant colors. And we're taught you go with vibrant colors. Our brain, subconscious, naturally goes for those vibrant colors because in the wild, those contain the
Hmm.
highest volume and best quality of nutrients. But it's a lie. When you walk into that produce section, it is a lie. There are foods, all the produce section, majority of it, if it's not organic, has been sprayed or grown with something added to it. The foods that are shelf stable, for instance. So, a good example of this is potato flakes. And I love using this example is the box potato flakes. You have to add something to it for it to stay on those shelves for as long as it does. And if you look at a lot of the boxes, a lot of the canned goods, the frozen goods, there is an expiration date, but that date could be 6 months to a year in advance. You could buy something in a frozen food section, a ready prep meal, pop it in the microwave kind of a dish that aligns with what you're being told you should be eating for managing and reversing diabetes. But that ingredient list is 100 ingredients long. I'm
Right.
exaggerating
Yeah.
that, but you've seen them.
Mm.
And the bulk of the ingredients are additives. And the additives are so that when you reconstitute or you defrost it and cook it, you're not losing flavor. You're actually enhancing that flavor. And if you
Mm.
enhance it, you want more. It taps into those pleasure centers.
Yeah.
And that's the
So,
number one trigger for a lot of us with these additives to keep going back. It's the convenience, yes, but when the flavor matches it or seems like it tastes better than the fresh.
Yeah. Because when I think of it, I think of like cereal and
Mm-hmm.
the colors in the cereal. And
Yes.
it just, at the very beginning, when we're growing up, it was all about, oh, cereal is healthy, right? And so they try to
Right.
make even Cheerios look healthy too. And so I'm like, okay, so there are healthy versions of cereals, but that's tricky too, because you don't just see one thing, many other things. And again, the things added to the food to make it stable and last as long as it can is actually what is creating harm. When we talk about food additives like color, the stabilizers, the emulsifiers, and anything that makes it look fancy and pretty,
Yes, yes.
how does it affect our blood sugar levels?
It can tap into two different areas, specifically with the blood sugar. When you're eating food that tastes good, your pleasure center wants you to keep eating it, which
Mhm,
means you're not really getting a realistic picture of what you're consuming. And that can really throw off your numbers. It can throw you into an insulin spike or a drop.
mhm.
Additionally, your body doesn't recognize those chemicals. And in
Right.
a lot of cases, we don't know what to do with them.
Mhm,
So everybody's subconscious decides what's to do differently. And what that can do is that can actually trigger inflammation. If you're feeding your body something on a consistent basis, but you're not getting the nutrients that you actually need, that your brain believes that your body is lacking, it turns it around and feels like you are at harm.
yeah.
You are at risk. So inflammation in all of its forms is there to protect us. It's there to help us recover, to keep us from harm, and to help fight off things that your body deems is an invader. In those cases, your blood sugar is going to rapidly increase, rapidly decrease. The additives that are in food can actually mask the sweet flavor. And additionally, all the substitutes for sweeteners, in many cases,
Mhm,
all your body knows is it tastes sweet. And that means there's sugar in the body, even though it doesn't detect actual raw sugar or cane sugar.
mhm.
It
Yeah.
detects it and it's going to respond as though you ate sugar.
And it increases your insulin even though nothing has come in just yet, right?
Correct.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty big. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What would you
It's
say? Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's common misnomer that you can have the artificial sweeteners and nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. I think that especially in when you're going to the doctor's office, oftentimes they'll say, why don't you just have the zero sugar Coke, right?
Right.
And they
Right.
always tend to go towards the zero calorie, zero everything, but not really are aware of what the artificial sugars actually do to our microbiome, right? So it's interesting what's out there. Yeah. What would you say are some of the more, because we are aware of the zero sugars like the aspartame and Splenda, right? When we see Splenda in our coffees or added drinks, what are the most surprising hidden culprits in our everyday foods that we might not realize are contributing to our poor blood sugar control?
The simple ingredients. So many years ago,
Mhm.
our food system was compromised because they were producing foods using unsanitary practices. And when they did that, they sanitized everything, taking and removing nutrients out of it.
Mhm.
And that's where enriched foods came into be or came into place in our
Right.
society is they removed everything and then had to put it back.
Mhm.
And in a lot of cases, when you're looking at breads, when you're looking at even some of the prepped dishes, flours, pastas, rices, even whole grains, the healthy whole grains, you
Right.
need to look at your labels because they could be enriched. And it's something that a lot of people miss
Mhm.
is that actually is an enhancer of your food. A lot of times it is not even natural nowadays because it's cheaper to go a different route. But that enrichment of our food is very detrimental.
Mhm.
It's the
Yeah.
spike in insulin because once again, your body's not going to acknowledge that these are actual real chemicals. It's something that a lab has produced to reconstitute our food, to
Right.
put those vitamins and minerals and nutrients that we need to survive in that food.
When I first learned about that as well, the word enriching, I'm like, wow, that is really deceiving, right?
Is
To the public who trusts that these labels mean something, right? And there's truth behind what it means when you enrich something, but that double meaning, my goodness.
there's also natural flavors.
Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Yes, it is something that is a strong pet peeve of mine. Is it natural? Sure. But it's not natural in the sense that your strawberry flavored cereal tastes like strawberries because it came from the strawberry. It
Hmm.
came from another version of a strawberry, a sugar-based version typically. And these natural flavors, many times they have soy in them, many times they have gluten in them. With diabetes, oftentimes you really don't have to worry so much about gluten, but if you are struggling with celiac, natural flavors is a red flag.
Mm.
You are not required by law to explain natural flavors. Hopefully in the
Yeah.
future that will change, but for right now, as long as it comes from a natural source,
So MSG could be in there as well, right? Yeah.
MSG, they can use something as simple as there are plants and herbs in the world that taste like certain foods, but they're not. You combine that with some flour, you combine it with some soy, you now have increased the flavor. And one of the big ones is the fruit flavors, fruit juice. Um, the concentrations that you see in grocery stores in the freezer that used to just be concentrated oranges pressed, concentrated cranberry pressed. And nowadays it's not even that.
Yeah, I
Very
was
scary.
it it is because when I was switching from dairy, cow's milk to nut-based milks, I was looking through the ingredients and it did say natural flavor. So I inquired, what do you mean? What's a natural flavor? And every company that came back to me, they said made from natural sources, but they wouldn't disclose. And when I kept asking them to disclose it, because it's an ingredient, right? It's like they didn't understand my question and
Mm,
couldn't answer my question. So that's when I decided, okay, I just have to make my own because there's something wrong if agencies, manufacturing companies can't explain what it is.
yeah,
So it's hard.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. And if you are dealing with any sort of sensitivity, intolerance, allergy, or a chronic condition where food modifies your state of life,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's important to know that. And because legally they don't have to answer you, they don't.
Mhm. Yeah, and they know their laws, right? They know all that stuff.
They know them well. They know them well.
What would you say then are very like what are practical steps that we can take? I don't think it only applies to people with type 2 diabetes. I think it applies to everyone, right? What steps that we can take to avoid these harmful additives?
Look for whole foods. Even if you are not looking at, I want to cook all my food. That's
Mhm.
not what I'm suggesting here. Look at your ingredients. There are actually products out there, and the industry is growing that use whole foods. You're not going to see natural flavorings on the label. You will see exactly what is listed
Mhm.
on that label.
Right.
When you're trying to shift, if you are eating a lot of foods that have these additives in them already, it's okay to slowly transition out, to start replacing things. When that bottle of ketchup is gone, go replace it with a natural
Mhm.
product or make it yourself. It's actually very easy to do inside of a blender or a smoothie maker. There's these recipes that have been lost in our society.
Yeah.
It's so easy. You throw everything into that smoothie maker and now you've got ketchup, or you throw other ingredients in and now you have hummus.
Mm.
If you do things slowly over time, it doesn't feel as overwhelming.
Mhm.
Now, if you're in a health crisis, you do need to take some steps. You need to speed up the process a little bit,
Right.
but taking it step by step and really looking and reading your labels. That is going to be the trick. Look at what's in your house right now. Go through and read it. And what I always tell people is if you cannot have a third grader read it and tell you what it doesn't have any place in your kitchen.
That's like a lot of food then, right?
A lot
A lot of our
of
foods.
it's a lot of food. I used to tell people no more than 5 ingredients per dish, but in a lot of cases nowadays, trying to create just something as simple as like a zucchini lasagna. That's a big dish for a lot of us, but zucchini lasagna, you're not going to get just 5 ingredients in that. You
Yeah.
know, there's going to be more than that. But if you look at that list and those ingredients are whole food,
Mhm.
then that is the best step that you can take.
Okay.
So start reading those labels.
Right. So whole foods are all the things on the perimeter of the supermarket that are fresh, that will expire, right? So
Yes.
that does mean we need to get out there and start shopping, right? We have to make it a routine to buy
Yes.
these things.
Yes. And nowadays it's so easy. One of the inventions that, or not even inventions, but one of the things that have become so popular in our society now is ordering for pickup or ordering for delivery. And the difference in the costs between what's delivered at your door versus what you walk into a grocery store and pick out
Mhm.
is minimal in a lot of cases nowadays.
The traveling time, the gas to get there and come back, and I see.
Yeah. Yeah, when you really collect it all, and I drive one of those big SUVs that is just a gas guzzler. So for me, it is definitely cheaper to just order it and have it delivered. It's budget friendly. And if you're going with a list of I need only whole foods,
Mhm.
it is so much easier to read it on your screen than get your magnifying glass out in the grocery store.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, that's true for sure. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point too. If we're really strapped for time at the beginning, we can start doing the online shopping. I personally like to go. I like to feel my apples. I like to see
Mhm.
what's there, what's new, and
Yes.
just pick it out. I'm not a foodie, but I do appreciate it and I enjoy looking at it and eating it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am a total foodie. And one of the things I moved to California many years ago from DC, and the amount of produce that I found out there, I started a habit that stays today. Even I have 4-year-old twins, and now they enjoy it as well. Is
Mhm.
each week when we grocery shop, whether it's at the grocery store or it's at the farmer's market, we look for one thing we haven't tried, one
Yeah.
whole food we haven't tried. And there's so many coming out.
Hmm.
You can try something new every time you go,
That's right.
especially with seasonal produce coming in and out. And I live in Texas now, so I'm in the middle of the country. It's you can get one new thing
Mhm.
each week, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, making an activity out of it too, getting fresh air. So there are a lot of additives out there that do have a connection to type 2 diabetes, obesity, and just metabolic imbalance. I have I picked my top maybe I don't know how many, I think it's top 5. I'm going to share them with you and tell
Mhm.
me what your top 2 would be to just stop taking and stop buying right away. Okay, so what I have here are high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, emulsifiers, MSG, and trans fats like margarine. Out of those 5, which top 2 would you say just stop, try to make it a priority to not have them in our foods?
Trans fats and high fructose corn syrup.
Okay.
Those are
And
my
where,
top.
yeah, I agree 100% with the high fructose corn syrup. Also the trans fats because I see a lot of people trying to replace the butter with margarine. But
Yeah.
where do you find high fructose corn syrup?
High
It might be
fructose corn syrup.
shocking to a lot.
I think it would be because if you really look at your ingredients, if there is sugar in that food, I can pretty much guarantee you there's high fructose corn syrup in it. It is one of the cheapest ways to sweeten food. It is one of the more popular ways to cheapen or sweeten food cheapen food too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I was about to say is cheapen food. It's one of the ways to do it. And it's usually hidden. When they put together their nutrition labels legally, it's the most or the highest volume to the least volume. So they hide it in the middle nowadays. It used to be at the very top, and now it's in the middle.
Right.
And there's a lot of words there, and there is zero requirement for a font size. That's why I joke about the
Yeah.
magnifying glass, is there's not a requirement. They
Hmm.
could make a label with 4-point font if they wanted, or 2-point font, as long as all the information that FDA requires is on that label. And nowadays, high fructose corn syrup is getting hidden. Not only that, they're changing the names of these. So it's almost like once you start looking for those and your eyes identify it, because what you look for and what you focus on grows, right? You see it all the time. You want this high-end white Mercedes. I don't even know what the Mercedes cars are called, but you want a high-end white Mercedes, you're going to see a lot of white Mercedes on the road. When you start looking for these things, it's going to be very easy to look at a package. There it is, no matter where it is on the label. And that industry, our food industry, is getting smart and they're changing names. So
Do
you
you
have to
know of
be
any? Do you know of any with the high fructose corn syrup? Are they changing that one right now? Because
not
I
yet,
know they're not yet. Okay.
not
But if
yet, but
you,
with a lot of the others.
okay. So if you see just the HFCS, you already know that's high fructose corn syrup, right? So you guys will know
Mhm.
that, right? Okay. And then trans fats, like the partially hydrogenated oils, they're not going to say trans fat, right? They're not going to say that.
No.
But they will say margarine and or plant-based butter, which is a canola oil. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny going plant-based. You have to be so careful,
Yeah.
because they even in that industry, there's no need to go a chemical route for that. There's no need for it. So I would say with the hydrogenized, the partially hydrogenized, if you see hydro anywhere on your label, just put it back. Just put it back. Keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yes. And also the syrups are any type of syrup or sauce, right? You would be most likely to have the high fructose corn syrup in there too. Because I recently found out that in my background, we have this hot pepper paste. And it was always grown naturally, fermented, and so it gave that flavor. And the sweetness came from the glutinous rice, not from wheat flour. And then they would use honey or maple syrup, but now it's replaced with the high fructose corn syrup. So even in ethnic dishes, unfortunately, some of these pastes are also the ingredients are being modified. And we just don't think about that it is. So it's all about the label reading. Okay.
It is. It is.
All right. That's good to know. What do you think about the use of spices then?
I love the use of spices, but I'm a huge fan of natural spices. So I'm very particular about where I shop for spices. A lot of times I won't just get them at the grocery store. If I'm in a pinch,
Yeah?
I will buy them in the grocery store. But for the most part, there are stores like Penske's, the Tea Spice Exchange, I think is what it's called. Those are two national brands. But there's a lot of herbal companies out there like Rose Mountain.
Oh,
And the herbs that you find growing outside, those are the spices that you're using. Buying cinnamon sticks from an herbal medicine shop versus from your grocery store. They're becoming more and more popular, especially like with Portland, Oregon, and Denver, San Diego, Austin, a lot of these really areas that are more crunchy than modern.
ah.
You're going to find a lot of these herbal shops there, and that's where I prefer to buy spices.
Oh, I see. Because I always thought that even the ones that they labeled as organic in the stores,
They're
I'm reaching for those.
Those are pretty good. You do still have to read the labels though,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
a lot of times what they'll do is they'll add flour, they'll add MSG to the salt base or the blends.
Okay.
And what they're trying to do, they'll add cornstarch, various different ingredients to boost volume.
Yeah.
So they're giving you those spices, but they're not giving you a lot of spices. And even in a lot of the organic cases, it's not that they're doing anything more than giving you organic ingredients, but the ground ginger and ground garlic
Right.
is typically a blend.
Well, that's a good takeaway for me as well. Because I love when it comes to like food and whole foods, I that's what I want to do to enhance the flavor, use the spices versus
Yeah.
only being something sweet and salty, just blending all that. So that's a good pointer for sure.
Yeah. And for anyone out there that thinks you have to buy them this way, that's the only way. When you go in your produce section, you'll see herbs. And here's the trick. Take those herbs, wrap them in a wet paper towel,
Right.
and put them in your refrigerator. Or trim the bottoms, stick them in a cup of water, and put them in the refrigerator. They last longer.
It's for
And
sure.
you don't have to grow a garden. I have a black thumb. I can't grow a garden. I
I have
try it every day, but it doesn't work.
I would say actually with my garden, I don't have a green thumb. I'm trying to build it, but the herbs, oregano and peppermint just seem to thrive on its own.
They do.
Yeah, so that's why I love to use those ones as a tea or just dried up as a spice. But okay.
I have a big box of peppermint out in the backyard. It's the only thing that I can grow. And here in Texas, July and August, it's pretty much dead. And then it comes back in September and October. So someone else is doing the work there. It's
Mhm.
definitely not me.
Nature. All right.
Yes.
As we wrap up here, what is one action step that people do right away when it comes to food additives, blood sugar? What's the one thing that they can start doing or looking out for?
Start looking out for your MSGs. Start looking out for your hydrogenized. There we go. Boo. Start looking out for the hydrogenized and start looking out for the high fructose.
Okay.
If you only look for those three things, you're going to find the other ones. There's
Mhm.
no question about that. But those are the top three.
Okay.
Do an assessment of your kitchen and just make a list of the things that when you go back to the grocery store, you need to replace.
Mhm.
There's no need to go and spend $1,000 at the grocery store to replace everything in your kitchen.
That's right.
Most of our
Nice and
budgets can't
simple.
handle that anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Start with one thing, one or two things. And I think that's a great thing to have the audience know at least what to look for because sometimes you don't know. So starting with
Yeah.
those three things. Okay. High fructose corn syrup, MSG, and hydrogenated oils. Okay, perfect. Okay. And you also have a valuable gift to offer to the listeners today. Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about it or share a little bit about it?
I pulled together a little ebook for everybody, and it's 3 steps to removing additives from your diet without any drastic measures.
Mhm.
If you pull drastic with me, I'm going to shut down and go the other direction. So I don't like drastic. I don't do drastic. We do everything step by step. One of the things that's inside of this ebook is actually a chart of 10 additive categories, what they are, and how to avoid them. So if you do nothing else with the ebook, hop over, grab this page, screenshot it on your phone or download it to your phone. That
Mhm.
way, when you are in the store, you have a ready reference available to you.
Okay. All right. That sounds great, guys. You guys need to grab this because it's not like public information out there, right?
It's
We're
not.
That's why coaches, when they come out into the space, it's hard to understand what they're saying. So thank you so much, Bonnie, for being here today and for the listeners to when you're listening to this, I hope you really got all those golden nuggets and just start taking away some of her expertise, her knowledge, and her action steps. I think that would be actually fun to do too. Get your kids involved too. Thanks everyone for joining today, and I hope you guys have a great day. I will see you guys at the next one.
Thank
Bye.
you.